Hello and welcome back to Aerial Savagery, where brutal opinions smack you in the face from above. My name is Janice from the Janice Project. Here with me, as always, for this podcast is Gottard. Gottard, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Cool. So it is a podcast that talks about what happened in the month of this month, which is April, in terms of video games, anime, anything geeky and nerdy. So it's just a roundup. Just a bit of a disclaimer: we will be swearing, mainly me. But you've been warned. Now we also do have a special guest with us. Hopefully, could be a permanent host with us for our podcast. As you can see in the new picture that should have come up now on the YouTube video. He's a guy that I used to work with at my previous job, and a really good friend of mine. He even lives really nearby me. So actually, Gottard and he, the new guest, live really close to me, and just makes this podcast so much more easier to run. And he's a really good guy, and he goes by the name of TKReaper. How's it going today, man?
Yeah, good, man. Good.
Good. So, I just want to begin with saying that with Goddard and with TKReaper, I mean, you guys actually used to work in the same place that I used to before. I don't know if you guys even met. Did you meet?
We probably met. Yeah.
Because I remember on off camera when I was trying to set this up, I asked Gottard, I'm like, "Do you remember TKReaper?" And he's like, "No, sort of." And then I asked TKReaper if he knew Goddard, and he's just like, "Yeah, we've talked." And I'm just like, "Wait, have you guys even met?" Like, I don't know if they.
It was a big office, a lot of people. There was a chance I come across him during some of the days there. You just never know.
Yeah,
it was.
We probably talked, but I only remember like 3 people.
It's really funny thing as well, because off the record before we started actually recording, Tony was taking some time, and that's cool because he was doing his other stuff and grabbing all sorts of things to get ready. And then I'm talking to Goddard, and Goddard just like, "Yeah, I'm not at home." And I'm like, "Okay, so where are you?" He's like, "I'm on a park bench." And I'm like, "So you've gone mobile?" And he's like, "Yep, I've gone mobile." And I'm like, "Okay." Like, his backup was, where was it? You were gonna go to McDonald's if shit hit the fan.
Yeah, if my power bank runs out or my data, I'll just go to McDonald's.
Hopefully that doesn't happen during the recording, because that's just going to be really weird.
Shouldn't think so. I've got a good power bank. Usually gives me about 6 hours.
Okay, well, without further ado, we're not going to be using up 6 hours worth of his time. But without further ado, we're going to go into some news, starting with some movies. So the way this podcast really works is that we talk about a couple of things that happened during the month, like I mentioned earlier, and I want to get some opinions on these guys because these guys are very much like-minded with myself. And yeah, I've always got my 2 cents in with what's going on in this world, because nothing ever stops. Especially now with movies. Well, the movie category. So the first up is Marvel's Iron Fist, which is a TV series. It was noted that by Netflix, it was the most binge watched drama, despite the show's poor critical reception. So Marvel's Iron Fist, out of the TV series that came out from Netflix, supposed to follow Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Daredevil, and sets up for a new TV series that we may be seeing before the end of this year, which is called The Defenders. I want to begin with you, Gottard. You were telling me that you're a Marvel fan, but did you watch any of the TV or sort of those TV series that I mentioned on Netflix?
No, I haven't. I do have Netflix, so I might watch it, probably binge it. I've been too busy binging anime lately, though.
Okay, just totally fair enough. But I mean, do you know of Iron Fist, or do you know of Luke Cage or Jessica Jones or Daredevil, other than maybe the Daredevil movie?
I know of Daredevil. I never watched the films. And I know of Iron Fist because a YouTuber I follow, they talked about it in one of their videos.
And then you, TKReaper, I know that you're sort of a fan with everything that's pretty sort of geeky. So, I mean, have you done or followed any of those sort of Netflix TV series?
Yep, followed, binged, and to be honest, absolutely love them.
Oh, really? So you've seen Iron Fist already?
Yes, yep, binged it in 2 days actually.
Okay. Because I'm actually late to the party as well. But what did you think about Iron Fist? Because, I mean, I've read that it has had some poor critical reception, and there was even quite a lot of stabs at them due to their choreography and fights. What did you think of it? What was your sort of brutal opinion about it?
Well, if we're going to be brutal, to be
Please do.
honest,
Please
yeah, let's do it.
Name of the game.
Name of the game. Let's get to it. Look, it was slow to start. Like, to get up and running, when I watched Daredevil, it got straight into it. It got straight to the violence, straight to the chaos. Same thing with Nick Cage. Got straight to the violence, got straight into it. Didn't hold back. But with Iron Fist, it was a little bit slow to take off, and that to me is probably what really killed it. But the choreography, the visual effects, and the general storytelling to me were on point. The visual effect with his actual Iron Fist was absolutely fucking mind blowing on how well they achieved it.
Really? Okay. And in terms of the actors and actresses, how do you think that this shapes up the individual stories that will bring in the defenders? Because, like I said, I haven't watched Luke Cage. I've heard great things. I've watched the Daredevil seasons 1 and 2, and Jessica Jones. It wasn't in the right order, but I am going to be going to Luke Cage and Iron Fist really soon. So, how does Iron Fist sort of like tie up that lead up into the Defenders? Are you excited about the Defenders? Do you think that that Marvel have chosen the right characters to portray the Defenders, or?
Well, yeah, I think they have like particularly definitely Cage and Daredevil. I think honestly, and for Jones, honestly, like perfect picks. Like the character chosen for Daredevil, the actor plays it brilliantly, and he really purveys that really kind of, I'm in a really shit area, so I'm gonna be as dark as I need to be to get what needs to be done. Like he really brings that across with
Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, with Finn Jones playing Denny Rand. He comes off a little bit squirrely, and there are times when you're just kind of watching him and you're just kind of like, do you know what you're doing, man? Do you know the character? Like he's struggling to get there, but towards the end of the series, when you get
when you get, did he just break up?
TKReaper, you might have been lost.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! I think he's gone.
Up on the final episode of Iron Fist, it's left a lot to desire for me. Like they've put it in a spot where the way I'm looking at it, it's gonna need a lot of build up and a lot of explaining to where they're gonna get to where they are. And I'm not going to be too critical for now until the first episode of Defenders airs, but as it stands right now, I'm kind of just like, where are we going with this? How are you guys going to link up? Like they do have, oh god, what's her name? Claire Temple, played by Rosario Dawson. She's been the kind of character that's kind of been the consistent between all of them. So I can see the link with her, and that's been done brilliantly. But just I don't know where Iron Fist is going to go from that very last episode to the first episode. And I'm going to wait. I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to be too critical on this. I'll give them the chance and watch that first episode to see how they wrap it up. But I'm just hoping they do it right, because if not, I will rip them a new hide.
That'll be interesting to see for both. I mean, I definitely am excited about the Defenders, considering that this is they are going to be culminating all these characters into sort of one show, and it would be kind of really interesting if they could cameo some of the Avengers in it, but who knows? I mean, Agents of Shield had a cameo by the one that helps. What's his name? I forgot her name, but she was from How I Met Your Mother, and she was from the Avengers.
Yep.
Who helps Nick Fury. But you probably know what I mean. It'd be interesting to have those kind of cameos, but yeah, we'll see. Moving on, sort of just to the second piece of news that I found out was Nicole Kidman very own Australian, Nicole Kidman, has revealed why she has confirmed and agreed to be the playing Aquaman's mother, Queen Atlanta, in the solo Aquaman film. I don't know if you guys may have heard of that, but she is supposed to play his mother. Gottard, I want to start with you because I don't know if you are a big fan of Nicole Kidman or whatnot, but with DC being a darker sort of, I don't know, and a darker and sort of behind Marvel in terms of like the cinematic universe. How do you think Nicole Kidman would be in that sort of plane of existence? Because she's always been in movies that are like sort of realistic or that go to the Tribeca, film festivals and all that shit. What do you think about Nicole Kidman being part of the DC cinematic universe?
I think it could work quite well. She hasn't solely been in, the happier, nicer films. I never watched it, but from memory, she was in Black Swan, which in itself is quite a dark film. And I have seen a fair number of Nicole Kidman's films, mostly the chick flicks, unfortunately. I grew up with an older sister and a mother. I didn't have much choice. But yeah, I quite enjoy some of her works, and I'm sure that she'll do quite well.
I will have to correct you there. She wasn't in Black Swan.
Oh, no?
No. You may probably have thought of maybe something different, like say, whatchamacallit? Maybe Eyes Wide Shut, or some of those sort of gritty films. But yeah, she wasn't in Black Swan. It was Natalie Portman, Mila Kunis, and Barbara Hershey. But yeah, not her.
Oh, right. Okay. Whoops.
Yeah, but I do know what you mean. But do you think that she could be a good fit for the actual sort of universe?
Yeah, I believe she would be.
Because a lot of people now have jumped onto the bandwagon, or I think there's a few actors and actresses that are asking for being part of either DC or Marvel because they could be a cash cow. But what do you think, TK, in regards to say Nicole Kidman being the mother of Aquaman?
Well, I'm gonna go with Goddard on this one, and I think it's, to be honest, like I think she's gonna nail it. Like she's got, like when you look at her movies, like she's got that beautiful grace to her, the way she acts, and at the same time, she's also got that ability to bring out a lot of sturdiness as well. And for the role of playing, Aquaman's mother, being Queen Atlanta, I think that combination of being able to be very well poised, but also the ability to actually show a strong female strength that you see come out in her movies. I think she's going to knock it out the park. And to be honest, I'm excited to see an Aussie up there and actually getting up there in those films and representing us well in that way.
It'll be interesting because on that particular Aquaman solo film, Jason Momoa, I think he's from New Zealand, and then you've got an Australian, which would be the mother, which is kind of funny. But I'm gonna have to disagree with both of you. I don't think she's the right choice. I think it's just gonna be really strange. Like for me with Nicole Kidman, some of her stuff has been like, I don't know. I think she's a bit. I don't know. I think she's a bit overrated. But I know she's done a lot. Hey?
What, a bit soft?
I wouldn't say soft, but I just think that it's just sort of overrated, and I haven't seen her do like an action film for sort of some time or be part of one. She's more of the dramatic feel, and it's like I think the last one that she did, because she was supposed to be like that Australian film that talked about that kid, who ran off on a train and she adopted him. I think it's called Lion. I mean, that happened last year. I don't know. I just, for me, I don't know. It's going to be weird. But the thing is, though, I know I'm probably going to eat my words when it comes out. A lot of people had a big problem with Australia's Heath Ledger being the Joker. And now everyone's like, oh god, he's so great. But is he so great because he was good on the screen, or was he so great because unfortunately he passed away? So that's where, I think he did a really good job, and he would have had so much more roles after that. But we won't know now because he's gone. So that's I don't know. I'm gonna eat my words when the movie comes out. So I'm just gonna say that publicly now.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yes, it's all up in the air at
I
the
know.
moment.
I got a feeling my words are just gonna come to bite me in the ass. But speaking of acting and stuff, on to the next one, which has actually got to do with the World Wrestling Entertainment world. So WWE. Now, the reason why I'm sort of putting this into this sort of like movie sort of thing and entertainment, I found out that there's a wrestler, professional wrestler by the name of Alexa Bliss. She has been fighting or doing quite a bit of wrestling in cosplay. So she's done stuff with she's gender bent Freddy Krueger and worn his clothes during a wrestling match. She's done an Iron Man inspired get up during a wrestling match. She's actually SmackDown's Women's Champion twice in a row, and she's actually got plans to do more cosplaying. So I can't remember with you, Goddard, but I don't know. Are you actually a wrestling fan?
No, I'm not.
No,
I don't really follow any of that.
because I know going on to UTK, off the record a few weeks back, we did talk about quite a bit of wrestling. What do you think? You know, somebody injecting cosplaying into their wrestling would bring about in terms of, say, what's happening now, because this isn't new news. It's new news because it's a female, but in terms of the males that are doing it, the New Day were the ones that started that. Is that correct?
Well, in a way, yeah, but like you can still go back to the golden eras of the '90s where you had Goldust, who was a gender bent celestial being from another galaxy who kind of set the bar for it. And then you had your Sandman, then you had the Boogeyman in the early 2000s. But as you said, it's new on the side that it's a female doing it, and to be honest, I think she's blowing it out the park. But the only thing I get kind of really thrown off with is how they're going to play it into a story with her.
Yeah, because I mean, wouldn't it be, depending on copyrights and stuff, and encroaching on that, how long does that shtick go? Because the thing is, I think this formula works for her now that she has to follow it from the New Day, because the New Day come out, they're all geeks. The New Day, I think they came out they were wearing the Dragon Ball vests at one stage at a WrestleMania. And then they've always been talking about how being geeky they are. So in terms of a female coming in, do you think there is potential for that, or do you think that it could just fall flat on its face really soon, being like wrestling in her matches as different cosplay?
Yeah, well, I'm not too sure. I'm a little bit on the fence with it. Like, I feel like if they do it right and, there's no copyright infringements that come off it and no lawsuits that follow it, I think it's something that, could really play well, especially particular to younger generations who are watching the show. And it could give them, it'll open up a new medium for them because, there are a lot of things that, over the years, the wrestling's always, kind of put out there. And the younger generations do kind of feed off it. So, you look at, over the last 10 years, the John Cena era, with the hustle, loyalty, respect, that taught a lot of younger kids, to, look after each other, respect each other, don't backstab someone. And like, why a lot of people didn't like his persona as it was, particularly the older generation, I think, feeding that to a younger generation is great. And playing into a cosplay thing, and cosplay being something that I personally enjoy as well, I'm loving the idea, but at the same time it's just like, how long can they play it out for?
Okay.
It all sounds pretty interesting, but so long as they're not portraying them as actually being that character, so long as they're just dressing as that character, they shouldn't run into any copyright issues. I'm a bit surprised that, is there actually that much of a difference between the male and female WWE sort of worlds? Aren't they essentially sort of the same thing?
I'll let you take this, TK.
Yeah, well, in a way, they are sort of on the same page, but just the way that the actual company promotes itself is they do kind of put their own wedge separating the male and female competitors from each other. So essentially, you end up watching a show that is split between male and female rivals. Like there have been times over the years where they have kind of crossed over with, female wrestlers dating male wrestlers. There's been, there was the Edge, Matt Hardy, and Lita incident
Oh
back in the
man.
there we
Oh,
go. There was those times as well where they did kind
Jesus.
of took it too far at times, but for the better part of it and majority of the time, yes, it is actually two completely separate different worlds. And it's, for me, I don't think it works for them. I think honestly, if they want to move forward as a company and as a brand, they kind of need to bring down that wall and make it as just it's all of them, instead of having this little wedge where they try and make it seem not obvious that they're separating the men and the women, but just get rid of it completely and just run the show as it is, and don't have this moment where it's like, oh, here's the male storylines, let's take a break, here's the female storylines, now let's go back to the men. It should just be nice and flowy, and I think that's what they need to start looking at to move forward.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
the thing is, like, I want to go off on that as well, because from what I've watched recently, based on that sort of premise, WWE has always punched out, especially with the Attitude Era and stuff, always punched out their storylines that are either close to the truth or have based some sort of truth. Like for example, with CM Punk and him always dropping the pipe bombs and stuff, he would always drop some sense of grievances that he had, with what he had with the WWE at the time, because he was the best that ever was. He was, he's what was it called? He was straight edge and all that shit. And then recently, I was seeing that they're bringing in segments and crossing the segments with stories with real life. Say, for example, John Cena proposing to his one of the Bella twins, and then Dean Ambrose talking about not the reporter, but the host. The host that I'm talking about. I forgot her name. Shit. The blonde host, TK.
I'm pulling a blank on the name myself.
His relationship with her. Oh god, hold on, give me a sec. I know it's on the tip of my tongue. Renee Young.
Yeah.
So I think they've had a feud, not a feud, but they brought in some storylines incorporating her into the mix as well. So WWE has always had that sort of bringing in that truth, especially with that later Edge and thing. That was a clusterfuck, and that they do merge, but there has to be relationships involved. They used to do it like years ago, when you used to have those wrestlers like Lita or Tori Wilson or Stacy Keibler, but because now they're in the PG era, they don't really focus too much on it, especially the sexual side of it and the teasing side of it. So I don't know. I think that's just kind of funny. But going back to Alexa Bliss, I think it's really cool that she's doing it. I'm hoping that she executes it in the right way, because cosplay cops its own shit behind the scenes, of course. And I've been there as well, but I haven't been there in a long time. So she seems to be making waves in NXT as well. So I've got big hopes for her, and I've seen her dress up as Harley Quinn as well. So I think she's going to do it some justice. The last sort of movie news I do want to talk about is the trailer for the new Thor Ragnarok movie was released. Though it's a teaser, they call it. It runs for like 2 minutes, so I'm like, that's not really a teaser. Especially like the ones with the Star Wars: The Force Awakens, they ran for like 40 seconds. So,
Yeah.
Goddard, what did you think about? I mean, you've seen the trailer for the Thor Ragnarok, yeah?
No, I haven't.
No?
No, I haven't seen it yet. This is literally the first I've heard of it, which is quite surprising.
No.
Because Thor is one of my favorites.
No! How could you not have seen it already? Ah, dude.
Literally, I've been doing nothing but binging this anime that my friend got me to watch. That's all I've done the last 3 days.
No, we're totally skipping you. All right, we're gonna go with
Fair
TK.
enough.
TK, what did you think of the Thor Ragnarok trailer?
To be honest, I am incredibly excited. Like, I like it's hard to really nail on the head. Like, you had that highlight scene with the main villain, catching Thor's hammer and shattering it. Like, that kind of visualization makes you realize that, okay, they're gonna break Thor's.
We're totally spoiling this for you, Gottard, by the way. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna have to watch it eventually, and we're gonna have to discuss it. So sorry, Gottard. Spoiler alert.
GG.
That's all
Sorry,
right.
man.
That's all right.
GG. So free, easy.
Yeah, and like it was a typical Marvel trailer in the way I saw it. Is it had that little bit of moment where it had that dark like, what's going to happen from here on out, and then they chucked in the humor at the end with the gladiator scene, and he comes out and you see the excitement of who he's about to fight. He's like, oh my god, I know this guy, and
he's a work colleague.
He's a work colleague, and it got me excited.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, well, I'm trying to keep the spoiler alert to a minimal here, so I'm gonna talk a
I
little
don't know.
We've given
normal people would have already seen it, Gottard.
Well, yeah. To be honest, like it kind of looks like it's going to answer one of the biggest questions, and like on where the hell Hulk ended up. Like, I'm excited by that concept, because like you always hear in the later movies, like everyone's like, oh, where's Banner? Have you heard from Banner? And it was just like, and then finally you get this little snippet of what might explain happened, and you're just like, how? And to be honest, the trailer's done what it should have done, and it's drawn me in. I'm definitely going to be going to see it because it's got things in it that I'm just going to be like, okay, how did that happen? How did he get there? What's going to happen from there?
I think that's the general feelings from a lot of people that have watched it. But for me, the one thing that really stood out, in terms of negatively, actually two things. One was the music, and the other was the title of the ending title. It just reminded me way too much of Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm just like, this is a really strange way to go about this, because the first Thor, okay, we introduced Thor, he's not worthy. Then you look at the second Thor, The Dark World, that was like legit not funny at all. That was like a really dark Thor.
I loved it.
And see, that's a good thing, but you see where I'm getting with this. When you contrast that to Thor Ragnarok, and I'm just like, yo, like, this is a really big jump in terms of emotions and content. And I wasn't entirely like convinced by a bit of the presentation, the music, and that sort of ending where the Ragnarok is like in purple. And I'm like, so okay, it got me thinking, are we thinking that he could bump into Doctor Strange again? Could he bump into maybe the Guardians? So I don't know. I'm excited, but I'm not that excited, because the trailer was just like, maybe too funny, maybe too Guardians, so.
Well,
I
I've
don't know.
personally been waiting for them to mesh the two universes. It had to happen sooner rather than later.
What were you saying, TK?
I have completely lost my train of thought, so it's all good.
Okay,
sorry about that.
Cool.
All good.
So now we're going to go into a next section, which is possibly Gottard's favorite genre at the moment in the last 3 days, which is anime. Two things. One, anime. At the same time that Attack on Titan had began on Crunchyroll and on anime streaming websites, My Hero Academia Season 2 had come out, and launched at the same time. So I want to start off differently with you, TK, actually. Have you actually heard of My Hero Academia?
I haven't, no. Well, I've heard it in passing, but I haven't really looked into it yet.
I'll explain a bit about it as well, but with you, Gottard, have you heard of it, or are you planning to possibly watch it if you've heard of it?
I have heard of it. Back in the day, the AMVs, I used to watch a couple of them. I wasn't really planning on watching it, but it looks interesting enough.
Yeah, so My Hero Academia is sort of like goes along the tropes of everybody's a superhero, or quite a few gifted people, become. I don't know. Ever since Marvel came out, there's a lot of anime that dabbles in superheroes, and this is an exception where there's one kid that has no powers, and they go through an academy where they have to go through these trials, and they get separated into different classes of heroes and whatnot. And this kid who doesn't have any powers and who follows an aging superhero manages to enroll into this sort of this school, and finds out that he has something latent within inside of him. So it's a really famous series that's come out in terms of shonen manga jump, shonen jump, in manga form and now in anime form. So with it being released at the same time of Attack on Titan, it has become quite sought out after. And I've seen the series as well. I found it pretty interesting, but I'm not sure what will happen in this season. So I'm gonna wait for it until it completely finishes, and I'm gonna binge watch it. I don't know about you guys, but I can't watch TV series like one episode a week. I have to watch it like once it's finished and then binge it.
I try to do that, but I never manage it. I always end up watching, just watch the first episode, and then 2 minutes later, I'm up to date and waiting for the next one.
But we'll go into the next one for anime. I don't know if you guys may have heard of this as well. There is a lot of live action stuff that's happening in terms of anime. So a lot of stuff is in the works. So Akira, Alita Battle Angel, Bleach, Cobra the Space Pirate, Death Note, Full Metal Alchemist, Lone Wolf and Cub, Marduk Scramble, Naruto, Robotech, Star Blazers, Vexil, Voltron, and Cowboy Bebop. So a lot of these apparently are in the works to be live action. But actually, I want to start with you, TK, on this one. What are your thoughts on anime being live action? Especially with what has happened and what could be as deemed as a failure of the live action Ghost in the Shell.
Ooh, well, I haven't seen the live action Ghost in the Shell purely because I'm on the standpoint of, trying to move an animated world into a reality world of live action. It's never going to be an easy thing to do, and like I applaud the guys and all the people behind the scenes who do try and do these, because I can't help but respect them for actually taking on the challenge. Like you cannot honestly sit there and say, I'm going to make a live action, it's going to be so fantastic, but we have perfectly. No, you can't ever have that mindset. Like, you're always going to be panicking. You're always going to have the fandom that's going to be criticizing every little minute detail you miss. You're going to have the people who never watch the anime and then end up watching the live action and end up loving it. I applaud them for it, but at the same time, the fantasy and the unrealistic ideas behind anime are what make anime that great. And it's just the ability to make things that wouldn't happen in reality, and trying to transform that into a live action, it's never going to work out the way you want it to. But I always go in with high optimism and low expectations, and hope that I can at least walk away from a live action film and not want to take my own life, particularly with the never to be spoken of Dragon Ball Evolution. It's it's one of those things. And like I'll touch on Death Note for a little bit. To be honest, I'm a little bit skeptical, but there's just something about Willem Dafoe playing Ryuk that it really honestly piques my interest. I think honestly, if they cast anyone other than him, I probably would have been a little bit more like, nah, screw this. But there's something about the way William Dafoe speaks and the way he words things and just his personality and the way he acts that's got me intrigued on this one. And I will actually go see it, and I'm purely going to see it for the Dafoe. I'm very for Dafoe. I think he's just got that really creepy persona down packed, and I want to see how he does with bringing Ryuk to life. I'll give it a chance, but as always, low expectation.
Yeah, the trailer didn't do it for me. But what about you, Gottard? With all these movies that could be, sorry, these anime that could be having a live action treatment, how would you? You may not have seen all of them, or even, uh, heard of any of them in its right. But based on your and what we talked about last month about Ghost in the Shell, what do you think? I mean, do you think that these things should be brought into a live action?
My opinion is that if you can do it well enough, that there's no reason that live action should fail. The trouble is that, as TK mentioned, it's the outlandish extremities in anime are partially what make anime anime. That's not always the case, but the only way to do that in live action is through CG, which is even the best CG, when you're doing extreme things, tends to not add up.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the sense of Death Note, I believe that if it was done well enough, that could definitely work because it is a real life sort of anime. It's not having magical explosions or anything like that. It's all it all happens in the real world. So I believe that that could be done well, and I definitely agree with TK about the Willem Dafoe aspect. One of the two things that I liked about that first trilogy of Spider-Man was Willem Dafoe's portrayal of Green Goblin.
Yeah, I can agree to that. Yeah.
Yeah, he really got the mild and sometimes not so mild insanity perfect.
Yeah, no. I do agree on both of you on that. I mean, for the general topic at hand, though, in terms of movies or anime that's going into movies, I don't know if you guys ever followed where anime has gone into live action in Japan, but I just don't. I don't think it's. I don't think the Western treatment is going to maybe bring that to light. Death Note could be the first of many, not the first, but it could be up there that it could bring it to a positive light. But most live action that I've seen, like Attack on Titan, um, Terror for Mars, Assassination Classroom in live action, it just doesn't. It's just. Ugh. Even Phoenix Wright as well. Phoenix Wright from the video game, and even video game adaptations just do not do it justice. Ghost in the Shell for me was something that I thought was good, but previous stuff before Ghost in the Shell, like cult classic, Mortal Kombat, and Dead or Alive, like they just, ugh, for me, it doesn't go over. But I don't know. I mean, looking at this list here, the one that I'd be really excited about is just mainly just Cowboy Bebop, and that's it. I don't think they should be touching Akira. I don't think they should be touching Bleach. I don't think they should be touching even Naruto. Just I don't know. Most of that list just has got me like cringing. And I know they've done a live action for Full Metal Alchemist in Japan, but I'm just like, I don't know. It's such a touchy subject for me. I just think they don't do it right. A lot of people just don't do it right.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I don't know. It's just. Ugh. We're gonna go into it now because we time is always against us. We're gonna go into some gaming news. So I don't know if you guys ever purchased this. I never purchased it, but do you guys ever remember Nintendo? Sometime I think it was in Christmas of last year. They released like a mini version of the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it had like 30 games. Do you guys remember that?
I remember it. Yep.
I remember it happening, but I didn't actually buy into it. I was never really a Nintendo customer.
Mm-hmm. Because Nintendo has decided to discontinue that, and now they want to bring out a SNES, so the Super Nintendo edition. So I just thought, I wanted to ask you guys, what sort of your thoughts on that, considering that Nintendo have not been. It seems to be that they're in the race against, say, the big three. Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. What's your take on this sort of thing? I mean, is it a gimmick? Is it something that is just a waste of time? Because they released the NES as limited editions. With the SNES, it's going to be limited editions, and then they just don't do it anymore. So, do you have any inklings of like purchasing the SNES, or I mean, we'll start with you, Goddard. Even though you mentioned that you're not a Nintendo customer, is there anything there that appeals to you, or it's just you're just not really interested?
Unfortunately, I'm not really interested. The first point where I've actually become a proper customer of Nintendo was the Switch. I am a thorough fan of the Switch, but I might look into it. I am a fan of retro games.
And you, TK, what are your thoughts on just say the sort of move that they've done with the NES edition being scrapped out and bringing in an SNES edition?
Well, like I'm all for it, because I grew up on the old NES and the SNES as well. Like I used to stay up very late with my mum when I was younger, and she had one, and I grew up on all the old Mario games, and I'm a big fan of it. And like I'd like the fact that they're re-releasing it because if anyone listening has ever tried to hook up an old Nintendo to a current TV, would know exactly what I'm talking about and the pain and suffering of the terrible pixelated display. So it's good to bring it back to a modern era, but don't do it as a limited edition. Like pump it out. If you want to try and make a statement, don't restrict yourself. Just get it out there and do it.
Because it is one of those things where even though they're considered as limited editions and they're a smaller version, I wouldn't buy into it. It kind of interested me in the beginning. I'm just like, not really. I'd rather I know that in Japan they do sell the proper sized versions of the consoles. So you can still get an NES there. You can still get an SNES there. Even Mega Drives apparently can still be purchased. I think it's in Akihabara. So yeah, they are still existing, but of course it's in the Japanese voltage. It's in the Japanese make. Whereas when you go to eBay, you try and get these things, and it's like a couple hundred, because they're classics now. And gaming has come a long way, but this stuff, I'm kind of with Gottard on this. I just don't give a shit. It's just another money sort of grabbing sort of scheme, I feel. Because I mean, let's be honest. Some people who are really smart about things can just emulate the games. I mean, they don't need that sort of thing in their life unless they just want to keep it as a collector's. And then it's like when they're 60 years old, they're like, back a bad day, I got this, and this is rare. So I don't know. For me, I just not a big fan of it. I don't know. It's just, I sort of shun. But that's all the sort of movies, anime, and games I want to talk about. So let's get into the juicy stuff. So the main topic that I want to talk about with you two fellow nerds are
if you don't
Star
mind,
Wars.
Just before that,
Yes?
if you don't mind, speaking of money grab, could we just briefly talk about Destiny 2? Because Destiny 1 was a money grab, unfortunately. But what do you guys think about Destiny 2?
I'm gonna hand it over to TK first.
Damn.
Bit on the spot.
Because I'm really strong on this one. I'm really strong on this one.
Look, I haven't really read into it. I jumped on the Destiny bandwagon much later than most people. I had friends who were just being like, come play, and then I was like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. And I liked it, but I didn't really enjoy it because it was just all expansion by expansion by expansion, and I'm never a fan of that. And I feel like, to be honest, if they want me to jump onto Destiny 2, they've got to just literally just cut that crap out and just literally just say, here's the game, here's a go, and enjoy it, and don't do the crap where it's like, oh, sorry, you don't have this expansion, so you can't play multiplayer battles anymore. That part pissed me off, and it was just like, well, I'm not going to spend money just so I can keep playing with my friends. So to me, I'm going to say, I'm going to go straight to the line. I'm going to say it's going to be another money grab, and I'm not going to be a fan.
Fair enough. And you, Janice?
Yeah, I'm really strong on this. Yeah, so I would just say Bungie, y'all fucked up. Y'all fucked up hard. I used to be really angry at them because I had Destiny and I thought it was really fucking sick. And then the one thing that contributed to that anger was they replaced Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage was the original voice for the one that, that narrates the whole game. And then they changed it to a different voice actor. Don't get me wrong, the different voice actor is fine. But Peter Dinklage was fine as well. But you can't blame him because of the people who directed him. So that pissed me off, and I love Peter Dinklage. Secondly, the expansion pack thing, yeah, that's a big no-no. But the one thing that really, really, really annoyed me was just the fucking grinding, man. I did not expect to grind so much in this fucking game, and I think I played it only for about a couple of months, and then it's just been sitting, gathering dust. And when I heard about Destiny 2, that got me infuriated because Destiny and Bungie had promised that they were going to punch out content that could be 10 years long. And now they're just like, hey guys, we've got Destiny 2. I'm like, I did not see that coming. And I quite frankly think it's just fucking lame. Yo, Bungie, you're fucked up. Like, really, really pissed off at you because it's lame. I'm not even going to buy it. I'd never even thought about it. When I first heard about it, I'm just like, nah, fuck it. Fuck it. I really don't. Like, gone are the days where, they can bring out like a great story or whatnot and something that's enriching. I mean, Bungie has always been, is it Bungie? That's always been, with the Halo franchise.
Yes.
But now they've come up with Destiny and I'm just like, yo, your Destiny game is destined to be in my garage for the rest of its life because I just don't care about it. I'm so angry. And I mean, I tried to play multiplayer. It's fun and shit, but the grind, man. And this sort of like furthers my anger to something similar, but of a different game, which was Tom Clancy's The Division. God damn, what a mistake that was. Still really angry about that game. So yeah, to answer your question, Gottard, Destiny 2, fuck off. Like literally, fuck off. I'm that angry about it. So, yeah.
Which is perfectly understandable. They did say that they had 10 years of content and that they would keep it running. But the trouble is that, unfortunately, in the sense of 10 years of content, as far as I'm aware, the only people that have done that with one game are World of Warcraft. And that's a huge shadow to be in. Personally, I have like absolute undying love for Destiny, even though it was a cash grab where they're just like, oh, here's the beta. Oh, you can level up to 40 and there's all these cool things happening. Release the game. Oh, all of those cool things after level 18 are actually DLC. That was absolutely scum. That was awful. But I just can't get over that. The grind doesn't bother me. I'm a bit of a grinder myself. But you put a game in front of me and say, it's Borderlands crossed with Halo, I'm going to be pretty hard. I'm going to have a hard on for that game. That's two of my favorite game series ever.
I'm not coming to your house when that happens.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm going to find a secluded room somewhere. I'm just going to sit there by myself with an internet connection and my PC. Because yes, that's the other thing. Unlike number one, where they're
I'm so glad he stopped. I'm so glad he just stopped just then.
Oh.
Like I was waiting for him to say stuff about tissues and shit. Like. Ooh.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. But yeah,
I've totally broken his talk. Wait, keep going.
Oh, was I dropped out there?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, say it again.
Damn it, my phone flipped. So yeah, the first Destiny game was to be released on PC, but after the fact, they were going to do a sort of a GTA thing. Although GTA was after, we're not bothering with that. But then they decided not to. After the poor reception they got, for good reason, they decided not to release it on PC, which probably killed it in my opinion. But Destiny 2, on the other hand, is coming out for PC on release, which is going to be brilliant. And
we'll see. Depending if it's going to be also graphics hoary as well. We'll see. But I wish I had more interest in it. But it's just not interested, man.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But that's really interesting that you're gunning for it. So I'm definitely going to be off the record and asking you, how did it go when it comes out? Because it's
Yeah,
already
no
got a release
worries.
date, isn't it? September
Yes.
of this year, right?
Literally my birthday, the 8th of September.
Oh, I'm not getting you any presents.
No, that's fine. I wasn't expecting presents. I don't get presents from my family.
Oh, dude, I'm buying you.
It's like, I'm not getting any presents. Fuck you, friend.
I'll literally just send you a box of tissues and a thank you note.
Oh.
Ew. It's from TKReaper, aka Bungie. No, that's a lie. No,
Yeah,
that was really interesting topic.
Bungie,
Thank
listen in and send me a free copy of Destiny 2 and a box of tissues. Thank you.
you. Yeah, send it to him, but you already know my thoughts on you guys. Fuck off. Anyway, on that happy note, we're gonna go
They
into
send you a
the
box,
really.
you open it up, and there's just a note that says "fuck you."
I won't be surprised by that. So we're gonna jump back into the main topic, the nitty gritty
Yes,
of
do it.
today's show, which is Star Wars. So, like I was saying before, towards you two fellow nerds, the Star Wars celebration had run its course during this month. First and foremost, a lot of things happened, including paying tribute to, our princess, Leia, Carrie Fisher, who passed last year in December, and it's still not real for me. I remember I talked about that in another video on my channel, but that had happened, and a lot of tributes and a lot of great things were said about her and remembered about her. But a lot of things had come out of the celebration that have tantalized a lot of people's appetites, of course, including yours truly. So I want to get into. I'm going to save the best till last. I want to get into first. Star Wars Celebration had talked about the animated series of Rebels. That is going to be finishing with its 4th season, and that is going to be ending sometime this year. And it's had a great run. Based on Disney, they said that it is canon, and even the ship that was in Rebels made a cameo appearance in the recent Rogue One. But I don't know I know you, Gottard, you watch a lot of anime, and I know TK, you watch anime, but have you guys, starting with you, TK, have you guys followed the Rebels TV series?
I haven't followed Rebels. I did watch Clone Wars. I am intending to get onto Rebels. The part that really kind of really licked my taste buds was to see them when they revealed the ending and the wrap up between Maul and Obi-Wan. That kind of really that tantalized my senses beyond imagination. Like when I saw that and they revealed it, I watched the snippet, I watched the episode, I watched the little ending. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I need to watch this. I need to see this happen. So I will be. That
trailer was godlike, by the way. Yes.
Yeah. So it's on my list.
It is on your list, yeah. I'm with the same with TK. I've watched snippets, but I haven't watched it because, like I've said countless times before, I wait until a series is finished, then I will watch it. I cannot watch it episode by episode, so that is definitely on my to-do list, and it's going to be on the back burner. But for you, Gottard, did you ever follow the Rebels TV series?
No, I didn't. My uncle loved them. He watched Clone Wars, and I'm pretty sure he's watching Rebels. He owns Clone Wars, so I'll probably watch it eventually. But at this point, I'm not too fussed about it. My list is quite long already.
Did you ever watch Clone Wars as well?
I've seen episodes, just the odd episode, but I haven't actually watched it properly.
Because the one thing that I think a lot of people who are Star Wars fans but are not as deep into it as possibly maybe TK or myself or those who have watched Clone Wars, I think if people were to begin their Star Wars journey, they would want to. I don't have a particular setting that they would have to do it. They can do it whatever setting that they want. But all I would ask for them to do is, before they watch the prequel, what was it? Oh my god, I forgot the name. Do you know the third one? Something of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, that's
Revenge of the Sith. I'm sorry. It's just that as I was saying that, there's I'm smelling a strong sense of weed wafting into my house. I'm just like, that is really strong.
Party time.
I
Somebody's like
promise it's
toking
not
up.
me.
Oh no, I know you're like a couple of thousand meters like away from me, but somebody's like toking up, and I can just smell it coming through my house. Like that's so random. But Revenge of the Sith. I would ask people to watch Rebels. Sorry, not Rebels. Clone Wars before Revenge of the Sith, because I think we're going to go into spoiler territories, and if you still haven't seen the Star Wars films, yeah, I'm sorry.
Block your ears.
Yeah, so
But I can't.
but something does happen in Revenge of the Sith, which is called Order 66. And when I watched, because I didn't watch Clone Wars before that, I was like, oh, that particular scene in Revenge of the Sith, that still got me. Like the music, oof, like broke my heart. And then I watched, and then I watched Clone Wars, and then I'm like, oh wow, Clone Wars is really good. And then I watched Revenge of the Sith again in my next, in my next and my next trilogy run after that. And I was just like, okay, that hurts a lot more. So, Clone Wars is a lot of fleshing out behind the scenes in between 2 and 3. So that's what I liked about that, and I think Rebels is going to have that sort of benefit between 4 and 5. But yeah, that's where they're going with. So I don't know. That's just how I feel. Another thing that came out of the Star Wars Celebration, and I actually showed you, Gottard, which was recently the trailer for the new Star Wars game, Battlefront 2. Now I'm quite excited about this, but at the same time I'm not too excited, and I will say that in a minute. But did you ever watch the trailer, TK, for that new game, Star Wars Battlefront 2?
Yes, I did.
And what did you think of it?
Oh, like honestly, mind blowing, exciting, cannot wait. But there's just that wonderful little 2-letter logo that just sends a little chill down my spine. That makes me worried that 2 little word logo is just gonna fuck it up again and just piss me off with it like they did the first one. And I know they've said, yes, we've got the single player. Yes, we've got the storyline. And I love it. I love the idea of playing an officer who served the Emperor and get that kind of backstory of what the hell happened between 6 and 7. But please, EA, don't screw me over again. I don't want to buy this game with the most excitement I've had in a long time. Turn it on like I did Battlefront 1. Last 10 minutes and go shit and take it out.
But what made you have those feelings? What happened?
Really, it was just for me, it was just the lateral gameplay. It was just, you jumped on and you're literally just doing the same shit all over again. And it's the same thing every stage. You get to the map, you're like, yep, I'm going to go do this. Yep, I'm going to do that. Oh, that good. And it's just, there was nothing exciting about it, and there was like all these things they built up before it, and they before they released it, I think it was about 8 months before they released it, they released a little teaser where you could go between planetary fighting and space fighting like smoothly, and it never came. And that was one of the things that I was really excited about, because I love the idea of being on, say for example, being on Hoth, being able to jump into an X-wing and escort one of the actual ships off planet to go to the new Rebel base. I was excited at that concept, but then it never delivered. And I'm hoping that's not the case this time. I'm hoping that, it looks like they've really got this shit together and said, okay, here's where we screwed up. Here's what we need to do. The fans love the storytelling. The fans love, the opera behind it. It's what's always made it the greatest thing out there. And in that trailer, the emotion they sold, at the scene where you see the Death Star blow up, and the character's like, "What do we do, Commander?" And you just hear that word, "Avenge our Emperor." Like, that excites me. The concept of that, it really gets me excited. But yet again, as I said, that 2-letter icon that just is literally Satan incarnate is just got me nervous.
Who, EA?
Yes.
Well, they were the ones that are helming the development for the first one, but that's really interesting. I've got a different take on that. But what about you, Gottard? Are you feeling excited about this new iteration for the Star Wars Battlefront franchise, or do you have any sort of mixed reservations?
I'm interested. I'm going to wait until they actually release it this time because I played the beta in Battlefront and I never bought the game. And I'm a big fan of EA's Battlefield games, but they did the same thing with Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1, I bought the special $500 edition and I played it for about half an hour. Most of that was with you.
Oh, Jesus, really? So you haven't actually touched the game since the last time we played?
No, that was the last I played it.
Oh, that's fucking awkward. But the funny thing is, that's the same with me. But I never bought the $500 edition. I just haven't. I bought it digitally with a standalone copy. Oh my god. Okay, well, I mean, for me with Star Wars Battlefront, I've got my reservations for it. I'm excited. I'm with TK on this. I'm really excited about it. The single player looks really good. I'd love to see that because apparently that's supposed to be canon. Again, Disney and EA. But the one thing that frustrated me from the Star Wars Battlefront is it wasn't the gameplay. Even though there was some bits that they didn't deliver. But with the game itself and trying to find people to play with. I actually got into Star Wars Battlefront, the first one, about a month after, and just trying to find a game for the different other game modes was fucking difficult. It was so difficult. And unfortunately, because I think it is region locked in terms of region, playing in other servers like in North America or whatever, or South America, whatever the hell, finding people playing the game was so hard, and everybody would just, or it kind of fell under the Titanfall syndrome. Titanfall, there's a lot of modes in there, but everybody just wants to do attrition, which is just team deathmatch. And then Star Wars had the same thing, and then I just cannot find a game, and I had to literally uninstall it several months after because I just could not find a game. And that's the thing that really disappoints me because I just couldn't find it here in Australia. I'm sure maybe there was some people had some different experiences, say online on a PS4 or an Xbox, I don't know, but for me on PC that was really disappointing. And I want to get Star Wars Battlefront 2, but at the same time I do not want to get it purely just with a single player. I want to play multiplayer. Because going on from this as well, this particular news that I wanted to speak to you guys about, Star Wars Battlefront 2 has revealed that there is going to be Jedi characters and DLC. It's going to be Kylo Ren and Rey. And funnily enough, just today, they've broken out, unfortunately it was GameStop Ireland who broke out the particular, like the promotional pictures that show the different, Rey and the DLC and Kylo Ren. They're both in different clothing. Kylo Ren apparently has a new cloak now, but he doesn't have his mask, which is kind of lame. And Rey seems to have different robes now. She kind of looks like Qui-Gon Jinn. So for me, it's still not going to grab me into wanting to play this game, even though there's going to be those Jedi characters from the Force Awakens. I mean, does DLC does that sort of like change any of your opinions? Say, Goddard, we'll start with you. Does that sort of change your opinion that there's going to be Jedi in it, that you'd want to play the game, or not really?
Not really, unfortunately. I might play it. As I mentioned before, I'm going to wait a couple months after release. And if people are still playing at that time and I hear good things, I'll probably buy it at that point.
And you, TK?
No, like with the original, Battlefronts that came out years ago, the reason I played it was to not play a Jedi. Like, it was the idea of playing the soldiers on the ground that sold me. Like, if I want to play a Jedi, I'll play Knights of the Republic. That'll be my Jedi experience. Like, the Battlefront is for the Battlefront.
Okay. What were you saying? Were you about to say something there, Goddard?
I was just I'm curious. Are you talking about the original Knights of the Old Republic, or are you talking about the MMO Catastrophe?
No, the original releases.
Beautiful.
It's like, no, not the MMO.
Yeah, no,
There's
we
no
don't.
Jedi.
We
There's no
don't.
Jedi shit happening there.
We don't talk about the MMO that just literally bent itself over and shoved a 12-inch pipe up its backside.
Ooh, gross. I never got the pleasure of playing it.
I wouldn't call it a pleasure.
But I've. Oh yeah, hence my sarcasm. But the nitty gritty one that I want to talk about is the trailer for the movie for later this year. Now, what I want to hear. I'm going to begin with you, TK, this time. What are your thoughts on the trailer?
To go with our
That sounded really gross.
to go with our, R-rated style, my erection can only get so large in this situation. I am
What?
so phenomenally excited for this, and that's what I'm loving about these new movies. The teasers are so teasy that they just draw you in, and the part.
Could you really call it a teaser though? Because it runs for like 2 minutes.
Well, yeah, in a way, yeah, because it was just a couple of snapshots, a couple of scenes, and then there was just that one line that got my attention, and that was, "This is the last of the Jedi," and that just drew me in. I'm like, what do they mean by that? What's gonna happen?
Oh, sorry, wasn't it the Jedi must come to an end?
Yes, and I'm like, what does he mean by that? Like, where's that gonna go? How is this gonna play into it? Because you see him training Rey, and you see the pebbles start lifting off the ground. You know she's developing her abilities. You know he's teaching her the ways of the Force. But what does he mean by that line?
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Gottard? What are your thoughts on the trailer?
Oh, excuse me. I'm interested in it, but I'm a bit reserved at this point. That line that everyone's obsessing about, the Jedi must come to an end. As far as the movies are aware, because the books and all that aren't canon anymore. As far as the movies are concerned, the last of the Jedi died with Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Luke Skywalker never received Jedi training, not official Jedi training. The Jedi, the religious sect. Would you call that official Jedi training, though? I don't know.
Yes, because Yoda's a master.
Yeah, maybe. The thing is that
But please go on.
Kenobi was
go
also
on.
a master, but they weren't trained under the Jedi Masters in the Jedi setting. The Jedi themselves, as Jedi, were basically a religious sect. They followed the ways of the light side of the Force. And I know that off record, you and I had a bit of an argument over this, but Luke Skywalker actually used dark powers in although they're not canon anymore.
Return of the Jedi.
But also Return of the Jedi. At the start, the Gamorrean that he uses Force Choke on. Force Choke is inherently a dark power, which
I don't think. Yeah. Totally disagree. I do not think that he Force Choked him. I think he just put him to sleep.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not very
that looked choky.
Inclusive. Yeah. To me,
you all think it looks choky? Oh. Okay. Yeah, I'll look into it. I still don't think it's a choke because he never holds his hand. He just passes his hand over. He doesn't do the Darth Vader look. He doesn't do whatever. He just waves his hand. That's not a choke. That's more like trying to get them to pass out.
Yeah, I don't know. But back to the books, which aren't canon anymore. Luke Skywalker did take a lot of dark powers because he was trying to embody the balance of the Force in himself as well, and he did a lot of searching for Jedi who'd survived Order 66 and dark Jedi who'd been budding in the darkness, all that crap. But yeah, as before, they're not actually canon anymore, those books. So the only evidence of the dark forces, as far as I'm aware, is that one choke, which is a matter of contention between us.
It is debatable. For me, the trailer, I think, yes, you're right. Everyone is focusing on those words that he said. And I cannot wait until December because, December. And the other things that they were showing as well is continuity wise, you know, when that first part where Rey's like gasping for air and stuff, her clothes still seem to be the same. So I'm hoping that The Last Jedi, this movie, is not a direct continuation, like literally immediately continuing from The Force Awakens, because she seems to be wearing the same clothes. It's like the Matrix Revolutions, where they did with Matrix Revolutions and The Matrix Reloaded. Reloaded happened, and then it was to be continued, and then Revolutions literally happened or was supposed to happen immediately afterwards. So I didn't really like that, and I'm hoping that they do have that sort of that gap in between Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. The one thing that I found really interesting was the picture of those books. Now, this isn't of my own understanding. I did listen to a couple of theorists about this and read up on it. That a lot of people contentioning the fact that the books that possibly could be in the possession of Master Skywalker is the Guardian of the Book of the Wills, the Book of the Wills. Um, do you guys know of the Book of the Wills?
I do not.
So the book. What about you, TK? Do you know of it?
If I'm remembering correctly, I think that's to do with the original Kyber Crystal Temple that they used for the Guardians that protected the temples. If I'm remembering correctly.
You are correct. Yes. So it's not. I shouldn't call it the Book of the Wills. The proper name is Journal of the Wills. So the Journal of the Wills, based in the Wikipedia, is that it's supposed to have like, the ancient teachings and talking about the light side and the dark side of the Force. In all the movies that we've seen, or that you've seen in the Star Wars cinematic universe, they do not show paper. Nobody writes anything down. Everything is either a holocron, it's visual, it's communicated, but nothing is written down. So when I look at that as well, there's also, if you remember in the trailer, there's also the symbol, the Jedi symbol. And that's a symbol from the Clone Wars when the Jedi used to wear. You remember in the Clone Wars, the Jedi wore their armor, and they actually have that symbol on the shoulder pads.
Yes.
It makes me think that the Journal of the Wills, that is a legitimate ancient text copy that for some reason Skywalker has found. What it has to do with him talking about, the last of the Jedi, I think is talking about, and this is just a theory that I'm going with that quite a lot of people are saying, the theory of the Grey Jedi, or the neutral Jedi. And I remember I actually had a talk about this with, funnily enough, you remember that guy from our work, Gottard, who was our trainer?
Yeah.
Logan, yeah. Had a talk about it with him about what side of the Force would he be on. And he said really quickly he wants to be Grey, or the middle Jedi. And the middle Jedi is something that, the neutral Jedi, they're not dark or of light persuasion. They're just the middle. And I had a lengthy talk about it with him, and I kind of agreed, but kind of didn't agree. So the theory is that the Journey of the Wills and the Last Jedi that Skywalker speaks of, Rey could be the neutral. So I want to know, now that you guys have sort of heard about this, or even just talking about Grey Jedi, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, what are your thoughts on Rey not being of the light persuasion or of the dark? Or could there be a possibility of a Grey Jedi that could be within Rey? I want to start with you, Goddard.
I kind of like the idea. It's not quite anti-hero, but I like a lot of anti-hero stories. So if Rey were to break from the mold and not be a good Jedi, it'd kind of be nice to have a protagonist that isn't just a goody two-shoes.
Oh, wait, you describe a goody two-shoes? What makes you describe her like that? Because that's really interesting. I've never heard anybody describe her like that.
Well, you find, as a general rule in a lot of Western media, Star Wars included, that the protagonist is the paragon of good. They don't want to do anything evil or bad or not good if they can avoid it. And so far, Rey has sort of been like that. There's been 1 or 2 points where they stole the Millennium Falcon in Episode 7, and actually, I think that's about it. She's not done anything truly bad at all so far. So she seems to fit into that trope, as far as I can see.
You bring up a really interesting point. I'm going to go back into The Force Awakens in a minute, but I want to hear what you, TK, have to say about, or thinking about Grey Jedi, or could Rey be just the neutral balance of the Force? What do you think? Could that be a theory, or what do you think about Grey Jedi in general?
Well, like I've always liked the concept of the Great Jedi, because it kind of just gave a third option in the universe, and it was spoken about in a lot of the books as well, and like particularly my absolute favorite series, which was the Darth Bane series, and I absolutely love that series to death. And in that book itself, they do introduce the idea of the Grey Jedi when Bane's apprentice Zara needs to go find her apprentice in order to overthrow Bane, and she comes across a Grey Jedi who had received initial Jedi training, but then was kind of like, his attitude was like, well, hell no, I want shit. And she finds him in a mansion. He has a lot of wealth and a lot of possessions, but he hasn't grown in his abilities. And the concept I really do like. And if they do take Rey down that path and have the concept of that line, the Jedi need to end, and the idea that to be balanced in the Force, you need to sometimes do something bad, and that's not good, in order to achieve this. And if Rey goes down that path, I think it would actually really it would go down really nice. I think it would go down like a glass of red wine with a steak. I mean, I think I would swallow it and enjoy it.
No, I'm sorry, but I disagree with the both of you. I understand that the traits of a Grey Jedi, are there, and I understand Logan's explanation of it, but I just can't help but think that they shouldn't exist. I mean, you have to pick a side. If you're going to be a neutral, because the one thing that I was saying with Logan was, if you're going to be a neutral Jedi, what are you essentially? You shouldn't be considered as a Jedi. You should just be considered as a spectator of life. Because I said to Logan, I'm like, look, if you see something that is happening, say for example in the world of Star Wars, something's happening, and the Jedi fight for the good, the Sith fight for the dark. So what is the neutral going to do, or the Grey going to do? They're just going to sit there and do nothing. Like, I asked him as well, should a Grey Jedi have? Okay. Thank you, Kitty. Should a Grey Jedi have or be equipped with a lightsaber? And I said to him, no. He says yes, but I said no. Because, I mean, if you defend yourself, or you even fight, you're fighting what? For yourself only? As a Grey Jedi? You're not fighting for the good of, or defending, you're merely only going to use the weapon as a self-defense weapon, You're not going to use that as an offensive weapon, or, to be part of, or even learn the traits of being, good or bad. You're just neutral. It's kind of boring. And, I mean, like I said, I understand it. I understand why it could be an interesting premise, but for me, I'm like, I just, it's like going with the principle, and I'm guilty of this. The principle of things today, where there's no right or wrong answers. There's always a depends. There's always a gray area. I always say that, stupidly enough, but that's just me. But when I try and bring that concept into, say, like Jedi, Sith, and then Grey Jedi, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't think that they should really exist. I just think, I mean, that means they're just spectators of the galaxy, and they don't really do anything to benefit anything. They just watch, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, no, but you got to also take into concept. Look at Revan. Revan, who was first a Jedi, then a Sith, and then somewhere in the middle. He didn't just sit by and do nothing. You know,
No.
he saw, you know, the bad on both sides. He saw the mistakes that the Jedi made, and he saw the mistakes that the Sith made as well, and he sought to correct both of them. And granted, the way he done it would be perceived as evil if you kind of looked at it from one side, but if you flipped it on the other side, you could also perceive what he was doing as good. And I think really, if you want to look at Rey becoming a Grey Jedi, and you compare it to the exploits of what Revan had achieved during his time, that's where I can see it working.
Okay, so if we go maybe a little bit further and we jump into, say, episode 9, if we want to finish this third set of trilogy, and we're going to make some hypotheticals, you know, if she becomes a Grey Jedi, so what then? You know, she defeats Kylo Ren, who, you know, I will never forgive him for what he did in The Force Awakens, and I've got a feeling Skywalker may buy it at some stage. What then? As a Grey Jedi, you know, what then? You know, she would be legitimately the last of her in the Star Wars cinematic universe of her kind to have those powers. Um, you know, and then what? Should she open up a Jedi temple, or should it be a Grey Jedi temple? I mean, where do you go with that? Because it for me, it just it doesn't go anywhere.
Well, what you've said is that a Grey Jedi fights for themselves, but a Grey Jedi would, like TK talks about with Revan, a Jedi fights for their ideals. So the Jedi fight for the Jedi's ideals, the Sith fight for their own power, which is their ideal, and the Grey Jedi fight for their own opinions. So Rey would fight Ren because Kylo Ren has wronged her and is doing horrible things. She's not a good Jedi, she just doesn't want him to continue being that evil. And as for what happens at the end of this series, I'm pretty sure that we're not going to see the death of Kylo Ren's master. I can't remember his name. Big hologram alien. Snoke. I don't think we're going to see the end of Snoke at this trilogy. So even if Ren is defeated, either killed or beaten down, converted, whatever, I'd say that Rey probably would start a temple, but it would be a temple of the Force, I'd say.
Oh shit. Yeah. That's actually a good point. Okay. What about you, TK? Do you sort of still stand upon sort of your point, or agree with Goddard on that one?
No, I go with Goddard. To be honest, I agree. I can't see Snoke ending in this trilogy because it seems like he's too much of a backdoor character, and I can't really see him come to light. But if Rey goes down this path of Grey Jedi-ness and, you know, gives up on the ideology of living by the code of the Force and the ideology of living by power, to be like, if I was going to end it on that note of Rey being Grey Jedi, I would honestly, like, from my personal point, and this is my own point of view, and you guys may not agree, and I don't care either way, but I could see it going. I could see.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm swinging here, but I could see, honestly, I would flip it that Rey adopts Darth Bane's rule of two, but as a Grey Jedi approach, where it's literally she embodies all the abilities of the Force, passes it on to an apprentice, and they balance the world and the universe as they see works well, instead of just this big guardian temple where everyone goes to and goes, oh my god, the galaxy's in trouble, please help us, let us meditate on it for 30 years and we'll get back to you. Or flip side of, oh, this guy's an asshole, I'll pay you money and you can go kill them. Okay, I'll kill them, but then I'm going to kill you. Meet somewhere in the middle where she takes on an apprentice, teaches them way of the Force, but shows them that you don't have to live by ideology, you don't have to live by power, but you should use your abilities to help what makes sense and what's right for the world.
Star Wars: The Legend of Rey. Okay, I don't know. It kind of it feels as if like it's very Avatar-ish. I don't know. Maybe it could be interesting. I don't know about Snoke. I'm hoping he does. You know, he deserves his comeuppance because he's very much the most mysterious character in this trilogy so far. not talked about him at all. Just the supreme leader, that's it. And I'd love to see what happens to him. So Gottard, you may be right, but I want him to fall. I want to go back, sort of backpedaling with Gottard talking about the Force Awakens and Rey being a goody two shoes. So the one thing after me watching the movie multiple times is Rey she has so much, or she knows so much, that I think I understand why Gottard sort of describes her as being a goody two shoes. Like, she just knows everything with the click. Maybe it has to do with the title of The Force Awakens, but I thought I could see why people didn't like it. They're just like, oh god, it's a know-it-all. She knows everything and whatever. But I want to start again with you, Gottard. I mean, do you think Rey is, that from The Force Awakens? I mean, why would you describe her as a goody two shoes, though? I mean, do you think that she knew everything, or that she's way too gifted? Could she be stronger than Anakin?
The reason that I think she's a goody two shoes at this point is because she's had absolutely no Jedi training, but all of a sudden she can use, well, they don't say it, of course, but she basically uses Bastila's battle meditation in that fight against Kylo Ren. She just focuses and then uses the Force as a preemptive measure against his attacks. And she didn't actually use Force push or anything, but she's got this ridiculous strength in the Force she just has it. She's one of the gifted. And that, I dare say,
incredibly gifted.
Yeah, I dare say she's going to become the strongest of the Jedi. But as to her being a goody two shoes, she's done one bad thing, which was stealing the Millennium Falcon from the guy who was, a miser. He was a horrible person, but
yeah, Uncle Blood.
But otherwise, she's basically been told about the good and evil, and at first she ran from it with the vision that she got of Kylo Ren taking over the temple and killing everyone.
The knights.
She initially ran from it, but then as soon as she actually came into contact with Ren and saw his evil, she just jumped on the bandwagon and just she doesn't do anything bad. She is really just fighting evil at this point.
TK, on your sort of like thoughts on that question. I mean, was she a goody two shoes? Did her knowing everything at the time, how to work the Millennium Falcon, even though she doesn't know how to fly, then handling her lightsaber, then reading and even seeing into Kylo's, his deepest ambitions. I mean, what are your thoughts on her?
Well, like, I kind of go to opposite of what Goddard was saying. Like, I don't think she was the complete goody two-shoes. I think there were a lot of situations where did kind of display a couple of little dark side niblets, particularly, in the scene where they end up on that little mining ship where they first run into Han and Chewie. You catch that scene where, I can't remember what the creatures were called, but they escape Raftar. But you kind of see her manipulating the actual doors and kind of cutting off bandits and literally putting them in those creatures' path. And that's not really the trademark move off a pure Jedi. That's someone doing something because they needed to get done. And to me, like, when I think back on it now, it kind of does play into the whole, she may become, a great Jedi, and that's part of the path they're taking it down. But no, I don't think she was overall a goody two shoes. I think there were a lot of things she'd done based purely on survival, and they're not traits of Jedi. The traits of a Jedi was always too big, selfless, sacrificial, never put someone in your own harm's way for your own gains and your own things like that. And a lot of times in those movies, she did kind of put a lot of people in the firing range and, put a lot of people's lives at risk because of her not wanting to really jump onto it. And I can't agree with it. I can't say, no, she's not a purely good person. There were a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
I think she did battle with it. And the biggest scene for me that showed her battling between that good and bad side was when she first come across BB-8 and she was offered, a crap ton of rations for it. And you see it straight away. She puts her hand on it, it's like snaps on, like, holy crap. Yes. And like, she kind of thinks of it for a second. And to me, it seems like at that point she was weighing the benefit giving up this droid to getting rations. And to me, she made the decision that this droid's probably going to be more helpful to her in her possession than food is. And while to me that may come across as a bit of a Jedi act, to be honest, BB-8 ends up leading her to Luke. So if she knew that was going to play a part or not, or whether her character may have had an idea about this and thought about it and played into it, but to me, no, not purely good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hear what you're saying with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
At that point, she has no knowledge of the Jedi, really. She doesn't think of herself as somebody with any real power. At that point, she is just doing things to save herself. With the Raktar, and blocking
Rathtar.
people off, that's, as far as the protagonist in series go, as soon as somebody becomes the bad guy, it doesn't matter what you to that protagonist about what they do to them, they just get rid of them. They're a bad guy. So that's how I'd explain away that. But then with the tossing up with the rations, the thing with that is that the Jedi aren't infallible. They're not just like given a choice, click, okay, we'll take the good route. They think about it. That's why Jedi fall, because eventually they come across a situation where the good thing to do is the bad thing to do. Because if you do the good thing and save this person or spare their life, they'll kill someone else. For instance, he's too powerful. He controls the Senate. That's a good one. For those of you who remember episode 3 or 6.
I am the Senate.
I am the Senate. Yes, exactly. That's, yeah. Yeah, because right there, Mace Windu was about to execute someone without a trial.
Well, I mean, they did find out that he was the Sith Lord. Okay, for me, in terms of like being goody two shoes, I'm not going to go into the ideology of like say, okay, the right and wrong. My point of view for her was that she just knew everything. You know, it's like, you know, if we have to really
Turn
use
off
the
your
M
scanners.
word. No, more like I feel as if like she's stronger than Anakin. Like the midichlorians, like, you know, flow through her like water. It's crazy. Like she knew Han's ship. She knows the history. You know, she knows how to fight and defend with a lightsaber. The saber went to her. The premonition just by touching the saber. You know, and then you hear Ben's voice saying, you know, the greatest, what is it, step to a whole new journey or whatever. I don't know, I just feel as if like in the movie, now that I think about it, yeah, there was a lot of like sort of just knows everything, like as a know-it-all, not as a goody two-shoes, but just knew everything. Do you know how to fly? No, not really. And I'm just like, but at the time when I watched it, I'm just like, yo, like, you know, she's a badass. I love her. But when you do further analysis, it's like, okay, maybe I understand why people just thought, oh god, she just knows everything. So going back to a little bit, because we're pretty going on for quite a bit. Going back to the whole Grey Jedi thing, I just want to sort of go as a round here as a last sort of question to it. Goddard, do you think she will be a Grey Jedi?
I don't think she will be a Grey Jedi. Like, at best,
do you hope for it as well? Or?
I do hope for it. If she actually became a Grey Jedi and an anti-hero type, I'd be very happy with that. She did have a dark beginning, which we know almost nothing about. Somebody left her on Jakku and just left them. So she's got a dark past. She's sort of lived rough. She knows how the world kind of works, which a lot of Jedi don't, being raised Padawans and all that crap. So...
Oh, yeah, she also understood Chewbacca and BB-8.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, that's the guidance of the Force, live in the flow and all that.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't think even Skywalker can speak to Chewie.
No, he couldn't at first.
Was he able to speak to him later?
I'm pretty sure he did.
I don't remember this.
Later, yes, yeah, but not at the start, no.
What about you, TK? What do you think about, you know, do you hope for her to be a Grey Jedi? Do you want her to be one?
I honestly, I would love it because it would take the universe to somewhere it hasn't really been in the actual movie world, and it'll give old fans and new fans something different. And I really do hope it, because to me it'll play in really beautiful to the storyline, and I think it'll blend just perfectly. But it's yet again, we have to see what happens. And at the end of the day, I've never been really disappointed by a Star Wars film before. There have been situations where I'll say it, Jar Jar, tough pill to swallow, but didn't ruin the overall flow of the film. And if they don't go down it, I'm sure they'll do something that will satisfy. But if they do go down it, I'll appreciate it.
Totally disagree with you on the Jar Jar one. I have no issues with him at all.
I don't have any
I found
issues
him
with
pretty
Jar
cool.
Jar either.
Oh, 2 against 1.
I certainly understand the hatred, though.
Yes, I do too, but I don't have any issues with him. I don't know. Jar Jar was cool to me.
Play him on a loop for an hour and a half and get back to me.
Well,
Play who?
Play Rey on a loop for an hour and a half, and you'll hate her as well. With Jar Jar, the thing was that the original 3, was it 4, 5, and 6? There was comedy in them. It's like there was a comedy
Dark
aspect.
comedy.
Well, not always dark comedy, but there was jokes, and
Well, yeah.
the whole thing was like people were sort of poking fun every now and again. It's like the Batman things. The original Batman films, if you go back and watch them, were hilarious, and in part they were meant to be.
Yeah.
But then
I don't know
you
if
cut
4, 5, and
to-
6.
But then you cut to the new Batman films. They're cool.
So
but
dark.
They're so dark. They don't really have the humor. It's kind of good to see
No
that
comedy in Gotham.
they have got comedy. These series have comedy, but people complain about certain aspects of that comedy, thinking it detracts from the story. But I think it just enhances it.
I don't know. I don't think there was, from what you're saying, I don't think there was really comedy per se in 4, 5, and 6. There was some dark comedy. There was some bits where you're just like, okay, where Luke says to C-3PO when they're on Endor, and he's like, 3PO, tell them that if they do not they do not do as you tell them, that you're going to use your powers. What like that just comes to mind. I'm just like, no real comedy. You just get those spikes and sort of like funny, but not as comedic. Because like that one time where Han Solo was just like, he taps that guard, and the guard is like, hey, and then he chases him into like all these Rebel Alliance troopers. Or even when he managed to draw out those Imperials from the bunker, and then they think it's just him as the only one, and all these Ewoks, emerge out, and then he just shrugs his shoulders. That, I think, are just funny bits, but comedy...
You're a bit short for a stormtrooper.
Yeah, funny bits, but not comedy.
Well,
comedy is like...
I suppose.
I feel as if like comedy would have to be like lots of running gags, but my thoughts on the question that I posed, no, I do not want her to be a Grey Jedi. I want her to step into the light, and for her to, stop evil, which is Snoke and Kylo. I've never forgiven Vader for any of the stuff that he did. I've never liked him. I understand his presence, but if Kylo or Ben gets converted, I still won't forgive him. Like, damn, you took out Han Solo, you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
no, he's got nothing
So-
redeeming at this point.
No, I do not. But I'll leave it on this particular note with something that I've just, I've wanted to say this for the whole sort of podcast. For this particular content on this topic. So, coming out of a chapter of Journal of the Wills, this sort of reinforces both you, Gottard, and TK. I'm saying this because, gonna buddy you guys up. Chapter 7, passage 477 of the Journal of the Wills says, First comes the day, then comes the night. After the darkness shines through the light. The difference, they say, is only made right by the resolving of grey through refined Jedi sight. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to ask you guys for any sort of anything. I'm going to leave it at that. So in the ending portion of our podcast, I want to ask you, Gottard, is there any sort of media that you would like to suggest to people that you've been doing? Like, is there any games that you've been playing? Any sort of TV series you'd like to recommend right now? What would you like to leave?
I don't really have much at the moment. I have one anime, which is my friend got me to watch that I binged. It's just it's weird. You sort of have to sit through a bit of ecchi occasionally, but essentially that I couldn't get over it. Kono subarashi sekai ni shuku fuku wo! Exclamation mark.
Oh God. Okay, so, and I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
If we do the shortened version, it's called Konosuba, God's Blessing on This Wonderful World.
Yes.
Yes. So that would be your suggestion for anime or for those listening to watch?
Yeah, probably. The other one is that recently I've been doing a bit of a
Probably.
Yeah, probably. I don't know how I feel about the series. It made me laugh like almost non-stop, but yeah. Lately I've been doing a lot of nostalgia gaming. I went back to Battlefield 1. What else? A few different, just as a general sort of thing, just think back to those games or movies that you really loved. Just go back to games that you previously loved that you still got, whether they're on console or PC, and just play them again, because some of them will actually be as good as you remember, or maybe even better compared to new games. Mine were. So just give it a shot and see what happens.
And what about you, TK? Is there any sort of media that you'd like to suggest? Any movies or games that you've been playing, or TV series? Just a few, not too much.
Yeah, no. TV series wise, like outside of the gaming and anime world, I'm a huge foodie, so I'm a big fan of TV shows related around food. And one I come across recently that I really fell in love with just for the actual idea behind it, and the show's called Samurai Gourmet. And it follows an elderly Japanese man who's recently retired from the corporate world, and he's kind of trying to find what he wants to do from here on out. And it kind of follows him on adventures where he goes to try new restaurants that he'd never thought of trying before, and goes to restaurants that he used to go to when he was younger, and goes through all the food and all that. And he gets in situations where he feels like he should kind of step up and say something, but he's a little bit reserved, and he kind of imagines what it would be like if he was a samurai. And it kind of cuts away and shows what would happen back in, those dynasty days in Japan where samurai were around. And it gives a really kind of goofy spoof to it. And I like it because it gives you some really good ideas. And the general message that, it comes across it is, just enjoy yourself, have fun with what you've done in life, and just enjoy the little intricacies of life. So I cannot recommend it anymore. And to be honest, it's a great show to watch if you are actually having dinner, because I found that even though the meal in front of me was kind of just simple and that, I enjoyed it a lot more while I watched it. So Gourmet Samurai, get out there and watch it. Can't recommend it anymore.
Samurai Gourmet? Or Gourmet Samurai or Samurai Gourmet?
It's one or the other. I can never really remember.
Just Google it, people. It's only 2 words.
It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. Easy to find.
Netflix it. Yeah, there's 2 syllables there. Netflix. My suggestion for this month would be, I've been playing Dirt 3. I'll be posting that up on my channel. Also be looking at a game called Gods Will Be Watching. And I recently saw the Fate of the Furious. And I gotta say, that movie was really cool. But you don't have to concentrate too much for it. It's pretty absurd with the stunts and whatever. I personally think they should have ended at 7, but they make money. So I would suggest to see that. I may do a roundup, or I definitely want to go see Guardians of the Galaxy really soon. If you haven't seen that, go watch that, because the first one I really liked. So yeah. those would be my suggestions for this month. Hey Gottard, are you still there by any chance?
I am, yes.
Sweet, he's there. So, on the lasting note, I want to ask you, how do you think TK did today? Do you want him back for future episodes for the rest of the year?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, you'll be coming back for next month, right, TK?
I'll be back and ready to go again.
Yes. So we're not going to
Awesome.
have him as a guest status. So welcome to the club. So that ends it for this particular episode of Aerial Savagery. If you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe, or leave us a comment. Any sort of feedback is really greatly appreciated. On behalf of Gottard and our new member of the Aerial Savagery gang, my name is Janus from the Janus Project, saying, remember, Aerial Savagery attacks when you least expect it. We will see you guys in a month. Thank you again for listening, and goodbye.